We're about to get our first Russell T Davies season finale since 2008. And in honour of such a monumentous occasion, I thought why not go through every single series finale that modern Doctor Who has done and rank them all from best to worst. Okay, so let's just jump straight in. Why bother waiting? We have... Up first, the Angels Take Manhattan. We're starting off with an episode which I'm not gonna lie, I'm not the biggest fan of. I think it's alright. The ending is quite sad, I'll give you that. Matt Smith's performance is great. Karen Gillan's performance is great. Alex Kingston's pretty good in it as well, but I just think I can't escape the fact that it doesn't actually make sense. Like, the Doctor can't go back in time to New York because there's a paradox, despite him going there in The Return of Dr. Mysterio. Also, if he can't travel to New York, why doesn't he tell Amy and Rory to just get on a boat and go to London, at which point he meets them in London and picks them up in the TARDIS and carries on their adventures? I don't know. It doesn't really make that much sense, which has always slightly annoyed me a bit. Also, the Statue of Liberty becoming a weeping angel, I feel like, is a leap in logic that's just a little bit too great. I think this is one of the only Moffat finales that I don't think it hits. There's something wrong with it. I'm also not the biggest fan of Amy and Rory, I'm not going to lie. I know we're starting off controversial, but Amy and Rory as companions just don't do it for me. They're fine. They're not offensive. They're fine. I'm going to put it in middling, because there are some cool moments, and the baby angels, like the cherubs, that's like all fun and games. But overall, it just doesn't do it for me, so I'm going to put it in middling. Anything lower is too harsh, anything higher is too much praise. But now we move on to Capaldi's era, my favourite Doctor. We have, as well, if you couldn't tell, we're not doing these in order, we're just doing them in the order of the tier list. Our next story is Dark Water and Death in Heaven. Now, this is an interesting one because I think part 1 is a lot stronger than part 2. I appreciate all the character stuff and the character drama that happens throughout it, and I've got to say, Michelle Gomez is 11 out of 10 performance, genuinely one of the best villains the show has ever had. But I feel like Danny Pink was slightly underwritten, and it is really impactful to kill off Osgood, but she just comes back next season, and I know it's a Zygon duplicate, but it's still the same old sort of, when a character dies, I want them to stay dead. For the most part. Obviously, there's certain exceptions. Peter Capaldi's on top notch in this episode, so I'm going to put it in good, which that feels a little bit harsh. But also, like, part 1 I think is far superior. The What 3 Words stuff. What 3 Words? Isn't that an app? What's it called? I think it's just the 3 words. I think it's 3W. What 3 Words, I'm pretty sure, is an app. But all of that stuff is great, and I love the unravelling of the mystery, and Missy claiming she's an AI interface, and then the reveal of the Master, which, fun fact, I'm pretty sure they shot a bunch of different takes of her saying different things, so I think if you go onto YouTube somewhere, come back to this video afterwards, but you'll find Michelle Gomez saying, "I am the Rani," in that reveal, so that the general public didn't know what the actual outcome of that scene was. But yeah, it doesn't hit as hard as a lot of other finales, but I enjoy it, and I think there's a load of really, really good elements. The Cybermen stomping out of St. Paul's Cathedral as well. Lovely little throwback to classic Who. I'm happy with putting it in good. Now, Doomsday. This is going to be another controversial one, and I actually pinpointed the other day on a Discord call why I don't like the 10th Doctor and Rose that much. I think it's a little bit of a similar problem to the way I feel towards Ncuti Gatwa's 15th Doctor and Millie Gibson's Ruby Sunday. I absolutely love that pairing, but what they're missing is an argument. One of my favourite things about Capaldi or Christopher Eccleston is the bickering they have with their companion, because also I feel like it makes it more real. Most people who have a best friend, like the 15th Doctor called Ruby his best friend, have had massive arguments, well, massive arguments, a bit dramatic, but have argued, have bickered. When you're that close to someone, it's only natural that at least one point in your life you'll have had a go at them and they'll have had a go at you back. Like, I feel it builds up the relationship a lot more, and episodes like Father's Day really, really make me care for the Doctor and Rose. And I know it's technically the same character, but when we move into Series 2, the 10th Doctor and Rose don't really argue at all. And I'm not saying every episode needs to be like EastEnders. Not every episode needs to be like Clara and 12 in Series 8, because if anything, that's a little bit too much. And I get the sense of, going for excitement and joy and happiness, but also I do think it loses a little bit of the dynamic if they don't bicker or argue a bit. So Tennant and Rose have never really done it for me that much. But I do have to give this episode, it's a very, very brilliant, epic cliffhanger. The Cybermen and Daleks, the reveal of the Daleks coming in, all of that. If you watched that unspoilt at the time, I'm sure that was amazing. And all the parallel world stuff and Rose's dad coming back and the sad farewell. It is really nice, but I don't know. There's just something about it which it stops it from being great. It's never a season finale I'll go back to in my own free time. But if it crops up when I'm binge watching, I'll happily watch it. So I'm going to put it in good next to Darkwater and Death in Heaven, which that may annoy some people, but I don't know. Oh dear, I'm feeling really negative. I love Doctor Who, but I'm not giving these episodes great rankings because now we've got the Vanquishers. What the flux was going on throughout this season? Flux started off so well. I loved the Halloween Apocalypse, and I absolutely adored, and I still adore War of the Sontarans. And then the episode 3, what's it called? Time, something about time, Once Upon Time. What a mess. And then sadly, there was so much cool stuff set up in Flux, so much relied on this finale, yet we were deprived of any answers that the series had been asking for. Tecteun, the only really interesting major character, was killed off. Swarm and Azure were sort of just wiped away by time, which was a bit naff. Kate Stewart shows up to do the grand total of nothing. Literally nothing. She shows up and goes, I'm Kate Stewart, head of human resources or whatever. Doesn't do anything. And also, what's the point in the Grand Serpent? That actor, Craig Parkinson or something, he's brilliant. I've watched Line of Duty. He's absolutely fantastic in it. But in Doctor Who, he just doesn't really do anything and then gets put on a rock. And don't even get me started on the Pocket Watch stuff. I get the idea, but you cannot have an entire season leading up to what's in the Pocket Watch. The main character gets the Pocket Watch and goes, nah, mate, I don't want to know what's in the Pocket Watch. I do understand from a character perspective, but I just feel like we were led to believe we're going to get answers. Seeing Joe Martin's Doctor, that's like teasing the answers. Don't tease the answers if we're never going to get them. So sadly, I am going to have to put the Vanquishers in not good. I don't hate it. And also, it is really funny. I've watched it a bunch of times with groups of people afterwards, and there's that moment, right, where what should be a heartbreaking, dramatic scene, like Carvanista, all the Luparis, Carvanista's entire species get murdered by Sontarans, right? And then Dan comes in and just starts cracking jokes at him. What is going on? And then, rather than exploring the relationship between the characters or how this makes Carvanista feel, we just cut to a wide shot of the TARDIS with Carvanista sat down looking a bit sad. And it's actually wild, but it is very funny to go back and watch. I think that is genuinely, yeah, and I know I don't want to be too harsh on that story because I think Chris Chibnall is a good writer. He can do payoff well. Broadchurch is an excellent example of that. I think COVID majorly messed them around, so I'm not going to entirely blame that one on just the writing. There's a lot of external factors there, but sadly, it makes for a very mid finale, and I'd say it's not good, so it's going in not good. Then we've got a mid-season finale, which that technically counts. A Good Man Goes to War. Now, I appreciated this a lot more as a child. I don't want to sound like, I've grown up now, but I don't know, as I'm older, I lose appreciation for this episode. There's some really nice ideas in there, and I won't lie, as a kid, the reveal that River Song is Amy and Rory's daughter blew my mind, and I thought it was the most clever thing in the world. I still think it's a really good twist, but I do think the episode as a whole feels a little bit unearned. If this was at the end of the Matt Smith era, or maybe even the end of Series 6, and we'd met Vastra, Jenny and Strax before, it would feel like more of a team-up. but instead it's kind of just like, here's a bunch of random characters we've never met before, but they know the Doctor. It would be like doing Avengers Endgame or The Stolen Earth and Journey's End, except you've never met half the characters before. It just feels a bit pointless. And fun fact as well, John Barrowman's Captain Jack was actually supposed to be in this episode, which would have made the team up and the Doctor calling on all his friends a little bit more valid, but even then, I mean, it just, I don't know. It is good. I'm going to put it in good. This list feels really harsh. Maybe I'll move it to great. I'll move it to great because, especially, like, I've got to bear in mind when I watched it for the first time, my mind was blown. I absolutely adored it, and I don't know, maybe my problems with Series 6 or the underwhelming conclusion to Series 6 sort of taint this, but I'm going to put it in great. Then we've got another controversial one. Can they give us a banger already? We've got Hellbent. Now, this episode, I don't think we're including Heaven Sent, but I'm going to make my thoughts on Heaven Sent clear. Heaven Sent is a 10 out of 10. Brilliant, flawless, amazing piece of television. Heaven Sent, I don't know. I have such mixed feelings. Clara is one of my favourite companions, and her death in Face the Raven and the consequences that lead over to to Heaven Sent, sorry, that's some of the best character writing, best Doctor Who ever. Clara's death is genuinely flawless. Face the Raven is one of my favourite episodes ever, and the Doctor brings her back in Hellbent. Now, I do appreciate getting, like, the hybrid arc. It's very clever, and it is well done, but I just feel like, one, they wasted Gallifrey. We've been built up for, I think it was about 3 years since the 50th, not 60th. The 50th anniversary builds up to, we're going home, the long way round. He does go home, and then he immediately leaves, which I feel it just wastes Gallifrey. If they weren't ready to do Gallifrey or didn't want to do Gallifrey, don't do Gallifrey. But it just turns into the Doctor and Clara show, which I do love, because I love the Doctor and Clara, but also they've wasted Gallifrey, and two, I feel like it undermines Face the Raven. It's this thing that, especially in the Stephen Moffat era, I think there was a bit of an issue with, was just let people die. One of the reasons classic Who fans remember the death of Adric so much is because of how impactful it was. He just died and didn't come back, and that was shocking. But Clara coming back, Danny Pink having the chance to come back, everyone having the chance to come back, it makes the stakes a little bit meaningless. But it is a fun episode, and I do like a lot of elements of it, so I'm going to put it in good because of the character dynamics, and because it's a controversial one. It's bordering on middling, but I'm going to leave it in good. Alas, the negativity, which this channel is never normally about, must continue because we're greeted with the bloody Battle of Ranskorav Kolos. Come on, Chris. I get the idea of Series 11 was to do, like, fresh, everything's new, fresh villains, and I kind of count Resolution as the season finale, and if Resolution were here, I'd rate it relatively highly, because I really enjoy that episode, and having the Daleks back like that felt like Daleks were a threat for the first time in about 10 years. But sadly, the Battle of Ranskorav Kolos, while I'd say it's a nice episode, I don't mind the episode itself. It's not a season finale. There is a precedent with Doctor Who and season finales. You need big, high-stakes drama. And I know some people in the comments may disagree. You're entitled to that opinion. But in my mind, it's the way the show is. Unless you want to change the tone completely, the season finale has got to live up to the hype. This would have been a really good episode, like a penultimate episode, before the finale. I like the payoff of Tim Shaw and Graham, like, on his little vengeance arc is quite nice, but I would argue there's a little bit too many, there's too many companions throughout the whole of Series 11. Ryan and Yaz just don't get time to sort of be fleshed out enough. But it's not terrible, so I'm going to put it in not good, right next to The Vanquishers, because I don't hate the episode itself. Like, I think the episode is fine, it's just a terrible season finale. So, and also there were production troubles with this one as well. Like, there's a podcast that Chris Chibnall was on, I can't remember what it's called, but it was a brilliant podcast, and he went into depth about how, I think that was like a first draft script, The Battle of Ranskorav Kolos, because he just simply didn't have time, which is why there was a year and a bit break between Series 11 and Series 12, to give him more time. But that lack of time doesn't stop it from being an underwhelming conclusion to the season. So, in not good, it shall go. Finally, we've got an absolute banger. I'm straight away going to put this in the best story ever told. It's one of the best. There's maybe a couple of stories that will go in this category, but there is nothing like watching The Stolen Earth and Journey's End for the first time. Like, Turn Left, Stolen Earth, Journey's End. What a climax to a TV show. All of the hard work from Russell T Davies and every writer, every single cast member, every single crew member pays off spectacularly in genuinely one of the best pieces of television ever. The cliffhanger as well is there's so much hype. And when I've shown this to people for the first time, almost unanimously, they have been crying when David Tennant gets shot by the Dalek at the end of part 1. Sure, you could argue it's a little bit of a waffly climax, Donna just presses loads of buttons. But no, sometimes Russell does that and it's a bit frustrating, but here, I think it's valid. It's valid. They've gone through so much, and the emotions of the characters afterwards. Donna can save the universe easily, but it's at such a high cost. And the music from Murray Gold, the rueful fate of Donna Noble playing as she's begging, "Don't make me go back," is genuinely, and then going back and Wilfred saluting the Doctor in the rain. It is so peak. And Davros and the Daleks and the Red Dalek, everything about it is so cool. And you've got Torchwood, you've got references to Tosh and Owen, and then you've got the Sarah Jane Adventures with references to Clyde and Maria, and Canine and Mr. Smith and everyone. And the Doctor and Rose reuniting. I've gotta calm down. But it's so good. Best story ever told, right up there, genuinely flawless. What an achievement. The viewing figures, everything at the time as well, completely deserved. I think this is probably the most popular Doctor Who has ever and will ever be. Every one of my generation knows David Tennant. And I think it is partly down to how good this finale was. Now, we've got another childhood banger on our hands. Utopia, Sound of Drums, and Last of the Time Lords. This is where the ending conclusion kind of ruins it a little bit. Utopia, fun episode, really cool, the ending is perfect. Sound of Drums, banging throughout, but it's great throughout. Derek Jacobi and John Sim both play equally brilliant masters. It's so cool. The confrontation between the Master and the Doctor on the phone, the Master watching Teletubbies, just how the Master watched the Clangers back in The Sea Devils from Classic Who. There's so many fun little Easter eggs and references, and then the music, once again, this is Gallifrey and the little flashbacks to Gallifrey. All of that is peak television. But I will say it loses a couple of points because Martha's whole arc at the end, and I don't mean right at the end, it's brilliant for a character right at the end, but Martha being sent off to explore the world, I think it's a little bit dry. I don't like it that much. It's not terrible, and it is still really good, but it's just in comparison to how brilliant the rest of it is. And sort of, I know it's set up with the network, whatever it's called, the Archangel Network, but defeating them with the power of prayer is a little bit waffly, and Space Jesus Doctor flying is kind of silly, but I don't hate it. I'm not gonna lie, I don't hate it. And once again, like with Stolen Earth and Journey's End, Russell distracts you from the ending being a little bit waffly by putting in some of the best character drama I have ever seen. The slow progression of subtly noticing that Lucy Saxon has bruise marks on her, to her shooting the Master at the end, is brilliant. And then the Doctor knowing that the Master's horrible and evil and having him, because he's the last of the Time Lords, crying, and the Master choosing not to regenerate just to spite the Doctor. He's so petty that's the only way he can win against the Doctor, is making the Doctor sad. It's genuinely just amazing stuff. So because of that scene and the writing of those characters and Martha's farewell, I'm going to put it in absolutely fantastic. That tier, I think it's really deserved. It is just a shame that the Archangel Network bit it's a little bit waffly. It's so close to being in the best story ever told category. I think those are some of the episodes I've rewatched the most. I don't know why, well, I guess it's because the end of time, but me and my siblings, I don't know why it happened, but for about 3 years in a row, every Christmas Eve, we'd watch this three-parter and then The End of Time. And yeah, childhood memories, that was great fun. Oh, okay, we've got another... Series 5 is, in my opinion, the most overrated series ever. I just don't get on with it. I don't know why. The Doctor, Amy and Rory, I think they're a fun little dynamic, and I like Rory, but the Doctor and Amy, I like Matt Smith, but him and Amy, just, I don't know, there's something about it which is a bit annoying. I don't hate it though, because you've got to bear in mind, even when I'm being negative about Doctor Who, I still absolutely adore all of this stuff. I do think part 1 is far superior to part 2. Like, the Doctor doing his Pandorica speech is one of the best moments in Doctor Who. I mean, even Ryan Gosling has talked about he watched that and saw Matt Smith's performance, and it was flawless. And he's not wrong, it's amazing. But part 2, I think, is a little bit convoluted, a little bit waffly, and I don't know, there's a little bit too much catchphrasey stuff. As fun as it is with the whole... Because I do like the running gag of like, ooh, fezzes are cool, but I don't know, some of the lines feel a little bit predictable. And this is a really random complaint. Well, not even a complaint, it's just an observation, but I feel like a lot of Doctor Who fan films go for this sort of tone, including some of my early ones. I don't know why it happens, but a lot of Doctor Who fan films have the sort of overly flanderised 11th Doctor type vibe to their Doctor. And, ooh, we're being clever with time travel because he's jumping from here to here to here. And it doesn't really fully make sense. It's a little bit waffly, and there were too many threads being left unopened and dangled at the end of this season. I do appreciate, though, a lot of it is really well written. Like the Doctor, that bit in Flesh and Stone where he's not wearing the jacket and everyone thought it was a continuity mistake. And then you get to the finale and it's actually the Doctor going back to talk to Amy. Like that's a genius idea. So I'm conflicted because I did actually rewatch it about 2 months ago and I found myself really, not getting annoyed, but being a bit like, ugh, is it over yet? And I don't know why. It's just one of those finales that I think underdelivers, and I might actually put in actively dislike. I feel like it may deserve, from a writing and production standpoint, not good, but there's something about it which just slightly grinds my gears. But not to fear, another banger. Another absolute banger. The debate in my head of putting this in the best story ever told or absolutely fantastic is currently raging. I really don't know. Part 1, I remember so distinctly, I watched this on my iPad, like illegally on YouTube, a re-upload in really low definition back in, I think, about 2012. And I was so captivated. Like, part 1 had me hooked in. I think that is one of the things that genuinely solidified my, adoration for Doctor Who. It's just insane. It's so good. And then part 2 as well pays off everything. You know what? I am going to put it in the best story ever told. Bad Wolf it's another one of those Russell things where it's a little bit waffly, but once again, it's sort of, the waffle is counterweighted by the stakes and the regeneration at the end because it's so well done, and it's such a shame to have Christopher Eccleston go so early. He's absolutely brilliant in the role and it just hits on all emotional fronts, and it's a nice little sort of conclusion to the Time War thing. And I do feel like it works brilliantly. Season 1 or Series 1 from 2005 it's one of the best pieces of television ever. The character dynamics, everything in it is so good. And the Emperor Dalek as well, like what a threat. And that scene where the Daleks don't need to go to the bottom of Satellite 5, but they choose to just so they can kill everyone. The stakes have never been higher. Brilliant stuff. Yeah, the best story ever told. Then, if anyone has watched this channel, you will know immediately what I'm going to do with The Doctor Falls and World Enough in Time. Boom! Right up there. The best story ever told. If there was a category higher than the best story ever told, it would go there. This two-parter is genuinely my favourite piece of television ever. Forget Game of Thrones, forget Breaking Bad, forget anything, ever. This is the best television ever. Where to begin? Bill, Nardole, Missy, the Doctor, best TARDIS dynamic and trio. The Mondasian Cybermen, Bill dying. The John Sim Master coming back. out of the blue. Like, he rips off the mask. Oh my god. Without hope, without witness, without reward, the dialogue, everything is just 10 out of 10. Peak, 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 peak. Oh my god, it's so insanely good. And the Master, literally and metaphorically, shooting themselves in the back. Like, you can't get better than this. Capaldi is on top form, Pearl Mackie is on top form, Matt Lucas is on top form. Even the little goodbye between the 12th Doctor and Nardole is one of my favourite moments of TV. Just the like, I'm going to name a town after you, a really rubbish one. It's so fun, and it's still that bantery dynamic. It's what I was talking about at the start of this video. The characters all have a bit of bickering going on, and I absolutely love that. It makes it feel so real. Yeah, genuinely 10 out of 10, flawless, the best thing to ever happen, ever. Okay, another maybe controversial take. The name of the Doctor, the conclusion to Series 7B, is my first proper Doctor Who finale. It may shock you that I haven't been watching the show since 2005, but I'd caught the odd episode, like Partners in Crime. That's one I have a really clear memory of. But Series 7B was the first series I properly watched and properly adored. I remember going to the, what was it called, the toy shop, the Entertainer, and buying those like kind of naff little 3.75-inch Doctor and Clara action figures and the TARDIS. I just adored Series 7B at the time so much, and I do appreciate there are a couple of dodgy lines and dodgy moments, but it'll always hold a place in my heart, purely childhood nostalgia. But this season finale hooked me in on the show. That opening minute of Clara falling through all that vortexy stuff was so good. Richard E. Grant as the Great Intelligence, great fun. Jenny, Vastra and Strax, now that we've seen them more, I absolutely love them. Like, the dynamic, especially as a kid, it's so funny. And one of my favourite jokes in Doctor Who, I know it's not from this episode, but when Strax is in, like, Victorian England, and he gets that kid, and he's like, to give him directions and navigation, and he says to the kid, like, what's your name? And he goes, Thomas, sir. Thomas. That is like the best joke in Doctor Who. There's just something so nostalgic, so fun about it. But I can appreciate not everyone likes it. Oh, I don't care. It's going in best story ever told. It's so fun. And the ending as well. Clara sort of sacrificing herself, then the Doctor going in his own time stream, and the shocking twist of John Hurt. Like, I think I've talked about this in a prior video, but I remember calling my dad upstairs and being like, look, there's the new Doctor, they've just regenerated. And he was like, I don't think that's regeneration. It wasn't regeneration, but it was such a good cliffhanger. It got me so intrigued. And I'd say that episode is one of the reasons I am a Doctor Who fan to this day. Okay, now we're on to the Timeless Children. This is going to be another controversial one, because I'm sure the internet will react completely fine if I say I really enjoyed it. Shock horror, mic drop moment. I like the Timeless Child idea. And I can't lie, Ascension of the Cybermen and Timeless Children I thought were really entertaining episodes, and I have rewatched them in the past year or so, and I still think they hold up. The ending maybe is a little bit waffly. The only bit I don't like is that Jodie's Doctor just leaves the grandpa from Derry Girls to blow up the planet. Like, would she do that? No, the Doctor would have to be forced away. But also, it's a nice little sacrifice, but also it's not a sacrifice because his death means nothing because the Master and the Cybermasters escape. So, yeah, it's a weird one. There are a few issues, but I can't lie, especially when I first watched it, I really enjoyed it. And it's the childish part of my brain being tickled, but the canonisation of the Morbius Doctors and the Ruth Doctor, all of that is brilliant because I absolutely adore Fugitive of the Jadoon as well. I'm going to put it in great. It doesn't quite match up with all of the other finales, but it is brilliant. Like, I really enjoy it. And Sacha Darwin is one of my favourite, like, Master performances. He's so good in the role. Like, it's so much fun. So yeah, I think it deserves great. It's going in great. Then, yuck. Rubbish. Naff. Oh dear. Terrible. I don't know what it is, but I absolutely detest this episode. The first 5 minutes are great. 10 out of 10. Having that little Easter egg, like the Charles Dickens actor coming back and doing a BBC interview, it's great fun. That's really funny, really cool ideas, high concept ideas. and then it just goes downhill, 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 downhill to a ridiculous conclusion. And like, I don't buy the Doctor and River Song's romantic chemistry at all. Matt Smith looks way too young. Like, it just, I don't know. And Amy and Rory in it are a bit annoying. I do like the moment where Amy kills Madame Kavarian with the eye patch thing, but, oh, I don't know, it's just boring. It's not even just boring, it's so complicated. Like, I feel like I have to get a flowchart and notepad out, and I get a headache when I watch it. And like, I think the Silents were a really cool villain, but this episode kind of, not ruins them, but they're just like, mid. It's, oh dear is harsh, but that's where it shall stay. I don't get on with that episode. With me and it, we've got beef. But yeah, those are all the Doctor Who season finales ranked. I guess if you want a little extra one, The Giggle, if we're counting that as a season finale, I'd put that in great or absolutely fantastic. Really, really enjoy it. Maybe great. It's not quite as good as some of the original stuff. But it's a strong episode. Toymaker's brilliant, Shooty's brilliant, David's brilliant. Maybe it is absolutely fantastic. I'll let you guys decide in the comments down below. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you did enjoy, please do remember to like, comment, subscribe, you know the drill. Leave a comment on this video, it really helps out the YouTube algorithm. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.